me turn my talk. Here we go. How he said he living life as a gringo. Where you question where you fit in every time you mingle. They say you do this with not enough that. My rapping is really bad. This life as a gringo.
Yes, hello and welcome to another episode of Life as a Gringo. I am Dramos, of course, and it is Thursday, so it means it's time for our Thursday Trends episode. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. There's really only one thing that I don't want to say I feel because it's a morbid story, but one thing that I just can't stop thinking about, and I just have to word vomit all that is in my head, and it is the assassination of the CEO of United Healthcare. This happened in New York on, what was that, Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. Or Wednesday, sorry. And there's so many conversations coming to light from this particular story. It's just so much of what I've been talking about. The disparity between the wealthy and the rest of us is coming to a head, whether we like it or not. And I think that's the larger conversation. So we're gonna talk about that. On a positive side of things, Spotify did its Wrapped, and Latino artists are absolutely just killing it, you know, as global artists, not just in the Latin genre. So we'll touch on that, something a little bit lighthearted, but I really just want to dive into this, other story, and we'll do it in a segment we call For the People in the Back.
Say it louder for the people in the Say it louder for the people in the back.
All right, so there's this wild story coming out of New York. I actually, not even trying to like interject myself into this, but I'm very familiar with the area it happened. There was an unaliving of the CEO of United Healthcare, early morning hours on Wednesday in New York City, Midtown. That building, the hotel he was at, actually is right across the street from the iHeart building. Maybe it doesn't know, iHeartRadio is who owns my podcast, who I partner with. I work out of that office every once in a while. So there's, I'm very familiar with the area, which is, I think, what got me even more like, whoa, what the hell is going on? Like the park that you see him walking through is literally right across from our building. So it hit kind of close to home as well. But as you dive deeper into the story, I think it really is a reflection of the times that we are in. And I want to preface this because, I don't want to be, I still want to be human at the end of the day. Reality is, this was a human being whose life was taken. This is a man who had a wife, who had kids, I believe. And regardless of the business that he practiced, he was somebody who had loved ones, right? And in general, even if that wasn't the case, I don't believe violence is ever the answer, the solution. Now, with all of that said, he is the CEO of a healthcare company who has been notorious for denying claims of sick patients. He is somebody who was actually getting ready to speak, if I'm not mistaken, at a shareholders meeting conference where they would sort of reflect on his success as a CEO in saving the company money by denying the claims of sick people who they insure. So, again, I'm not co-signing any violence, but I do find it interesting, and I don't think fair is the word, but a conversation to be had in some of the reaction around the internet where people are celebrating almost this event. And again, I don't agree with that. But it does speak to the larger conversation of disenfranchisement, that people feel that is the reaction that they're having, right? Healthcare companies are notorious for not doing what they're supposed to do. And we pay them a lot of money each month. And then when we actually need, to get help, to put our healthcare to work that we've been paying for, we're often greeted with this bill because our healthcare doesn't cover all that we thought it would or all that it should, right? And on top of that, the healthcare system in general, the hospitals, gouging the fuck out of us for every little thing, nickel and diming, to charge and charge and charge. And the fact that people are going into debt for life-saving procedures is criminal. There's no other word for that. And this man right here, Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, is a representation of all of that. And just to kind of give a quick rundown of the story, anybody who hasn't been following closely, he was set to speak at a conference that was starting at 8 a.m. He was staying at a hotel across the street. He was walking into the entrance of the hotel he was going to be speaking at when a man came up behind him, fired what appeared to be, I think, 2 or 3 rounds. The first one into the man's back, then fled on foot, then somehow hopped on a city bike and was last seen in Central Park. The man who was shot, Brian Thompson, was on the ground. I think he did make it to the hospital, was pronounced dead there. And what they're saying is this was very much so a targeted attack because there were other people right there. If you watch the video, it's disgusting, but there was actually a woman standing outside of the doors of the hotel, like drinking a coffee, and the shooter completely ignored her. She just ran away. There were other innocent bystanders on the streets as well. I mean, it's New York, so there's always going to be people around, especially that area. A lot of corporate buildings, a lot of tourists, things like that. And the shooter had no interest in anybody else except for Brian Thompson. So it was assumed to be an assassination. And now further details are coming out where they're saying that there was actually messages carved into the bullets. Words were carved into the bullets, and the words that were carved into them, 3 different bullets, the shotgun shells, I should say. One of the words was deny. One of the words was defend. And one of the words was depose. And the victim's wife did confirm that her husband had been receiving threats as of late. And just from those words, it does seem like this was somebody who was trying to make a point to, in their mind, punish this man for the work that he does on a regular basis. And it's just scary stuff. Actually, a friend of mine, we were having a conversation in our group chat. I'm gonna pull it up. She had actually even sent like a statistic that they had online, saying that United Healthcare actually has the highest claim denial rates of any insurance company. They deny 32% of insurance claims, which is crazy, by the way. We pay out there. I don't know how much y'all pay. I know some people are fortunate enough if you have through your job, depending on what you do. I have to pay out of pocket because I'm self-employed, and it fucking hurts. It's more than my car payment. It's a lot. And I still pay out of pocket for certain things. Even if you read, I have like the top tier plan just to be safe. I have like asthma and things like that, so I was, want to play it safe. And you read it, and it's like, oh, God forbid I end up in the emergency room. They don't start covering me until I've started paying thousands of dollars out of pocket, which is criminal. All the money I'm spending with them per month that is going unused because thank God, I'm not somebody who has to be hospitalized or has a bunch of medication that they have to worry about. But all of that money I'm spending, they're pocketing and not providing me with a proper service. God forbid I need it. So Anyway, the larger conversation at play here that I think is happening. This reminded me of a quote from Tupac, right? That sounds like a random source, but my mind works in music oftentimes. And it was an interview that he was having, and they were they were talking about disparity, right? And talking about people who struggle and don't come from money and are poor and are really just trying to get by. And he gave this sort of example of like, imagine you're starving. You haven't eaten for days. I'm paraphrasing here, but imagine you're struggling. And you look over and your neighbor across the street is having this grandiose party, and they've got all the fixings. They've got all the food anybody could ever imagine. And you're looking, and you're like, man, they have more food than they have people. Like, there's no way all those people is gonna be able to eat that food. And you're like, yo, I haven't eaten in a week. And you politely, walk across the street, you knock on the door, and you say, hey, listen, really sorry to bother you, but I'm going through some rough times right now. I haven't been able to have a warm meal in about a week. I noticed that you guys got a lot over here. Would you mind if I just fix myself a plate? And then that person, the neighbor who has all that, says, nope, sorry, I can't help you. Slams the door. And you go back across the street and you're just watching. You're like, man, like all this food is getting wasted. Time is going by and nobody's eating. Let me go over there one more time. Let's say it. And you knock on the door, the neighbor answers again, and this time you're a little bit more forceful. You're kind of getting aggravated. Your stomach is growling. You're like, listen, I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but you got all this food out here. None of your guests are really eating. Like, can I please just get a plate? It makes no difference for you. And the person again shuns you off. Like, nope, sorry, can't help you out, bro. Closes the door in your face. And to Tupac's point, he's like, listen, that third time, we ain't knocking. You're kicking the fucking door in, and you're fixing yourself a plate. You're taking what you need because you are desperate at that point. You're starving. And again, I'm not saying morally stealing, violence, whatever, is the right way to go. But when you are desperate and don't have many options, and we've all been there in some way, shape, or form, you start having to get creative with how you're going to get by. And again, I'm not co-signing immoral behavior, but when we're talking about life and death, decisions have to be made essentially, right? And I think to a degree, we are getting to that place here in this country, but I even think globally. And I also saw somebody bring up the French Revolution, right? And I'm gonna reference this because I found it to be super sort of interesting of a correlation here, but similar kind of concept here, because you have the French Revolution was a period of social and political upheaval that took place from 1789 to 1799. The revolution was a response to the economic hardship, corruption, and inequality in France, and sought to redefine the relationship between the people and their rulers. The revolution led to the overthrow of the monarchy and the feudal system and helped shape modern democracies. So essentially, the French Revolution was a time period where people in France got tired of watching the royal class live it up while they suffered and were fighting to, not die essentially. Meanwhile, the other side had more than they could ever need. And I find this to be a really interesting sort of correlation to where we are in this world right now. And by the way, I've been screaming this at the top of my lungs. I don't want to, pat myself on the back too much here, but I've been screaming this at the top of my fucking lungs since 2020. When I was doing my TV show on LA TV, I was pointing out a lot of this shit. One of my big things was the airline industry, which I've talked about all the time. One of my other things was also in 2021, and I've mentioned this a bunch of times, when gas prices were astronomical, right? And everybody's like, oh my God, the president's really. Meanwhile, the heads of, I believe it was ExxonMobil, they have their, quarterly meetings to talk about profits. They literally reported record profits in the quarter that followed the $6 a gallon gas prices in LA. They claimed they had to raise their prices because stock was low and the fuel prices then were raised, so they had to raise it for their customers. Which obviously, if you're reporting record numbers, that's a bullshit story. Maybe it started that way, but you then saw an opportunity to maximize your profits under the rouge that the prices are high because of the president, because of global economics, global policy, and supply and demand issues, supply chain issues. But if you're paying attention, if that is the case, then you shouldn't be producing record profits, right? Because the idea of having to raise prices to your customers is to make up for the expenses. Therefore, you should be either exactly where you were before or you let a little bit of a loss, but the idea is to stop the bleeding. But if you actually reported record fucking profits, that means you were gouging. The stories you told us were bullshit. And I've been saying that for years. Same thing with these healthcare companies. They're gouging the shit out of us, but not covering the things we need them to cover. The hospital, overpricing everything from aspirin to every little fucking thing they nickel and dime you for. God forbid you have to go to the emergency room to not die. You're walking away with thousands of dollars of debt. It's not fair. It's unnecessary. So what the fuck do you think is going to happen? And people are hurting. And people are hurting because of extreme capitalism. Because of the actions and belief systems of people like this CEO of United Healthcare. That above all else, even the life of somebody, even somebody's literal life, they put profit and shareholders above all of that. Eventually, you're going to back people into a corner where they become like rabid animals and start doing wild shit like this. You create a monster when your company is laying off employees left and right, is not paying employees livable wages. Meanwhile, the cost of living continues to rise. And your CEO has an inflated salary that is ridiculous. And the only way to maintain it and still make your shareholders happy because they want to keep seeing profit every single quarter, which is completely unrealistic, the only way to do so is lay off employees so you don't have that burden of salary and give a cheaper, less quality product to your customers while actually charging them more than they've ever paid before. That goes for what we buy in stores. That goes for healthcare. You're paying more money for healthcare than ever, but they're covering less and less. You go to the airline and they are giving you shit service and a bag of fucking fun-sized peanuts. Meanwhile, they nickel and dime you every single chance that they got. You don't want to sit by the bathroom? Pay an extra $50. You want to fucking carry a bag and put it in a stowaway compartment that is literally designed to hold bags for the passengers of each and every row? Hey, you want to do that? $50. You want us to fucking throw it underneath the fucking plane, and then you have to wait as we process it, and you're sitting there at the fucking airport half asleep trying to just get to where you want to get to? $40. Everything. On top of that, God forbid you want to fly on a day that's convenient, or God forbid, like we saw in Florida, which I brought up, you're trying to escape a fucking potential death threat of a hurricane. Now is the time they're going to raise the prices on you because it's every opportunity to make money off of people, regardless if it's at the expense of their literal life. That's what we've normalized in this world. Eventually, people are going to say enough is a fucking enough. I can't afford to fucking live. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here trying to do everything fucking right. I'm paying my bills. I'm working my fucking ass off. I have health insurance. It hurts every month that it comes out of my check or I pay out of pocket, but I'm doing it because I know I need to. Because God forbid I need to use it. And then that moment actually comes. And the years of me paying for overpriced healthcare mean absolutely nothing because then I have to go $1,000 into fucking debt. Because my healthcare provider is covering this but not that. Like just wild shit. It's and that's the world that we live in. I'm going to take a breather here. I still want to keep talking about this for a little bit. We'll take a quick break, though, and then we'll be right back. All right, we are back. And I want to touch on part 2 of this because it's also ironic, right? And by the way, politically, neither side is doing enough to truly make a difference and fight these fucking problems. Both sides, Democrat, Republican, are in bed with corporate America, big donors. Kamala raised something like $1 billion for her campaign. Crazy stuff. Like the amount of money you need to run these campaigns, and that's just president. We can go down the fucking every other race that happened and how many billions of dollars were spent and wasted essentially on fucking advertising, essentially. But also, at least the Democrats, it seems like they care a little bit more. There were some plans in place. Kamala did have some plans. Things about money for down payments, further tax credits, some incentives for people to open businesses and get loans and things of that nature. Not saying it was enough, not saying it might have been bullshit, but at least there was something. On the flip side of it, all these people that are complaining that it's too expensive to live and, we got to drain the swamp, all these things. Donald Trump is the fucking swamp. Donald Trump got prosecuted, and stay with me here. I'm not making this a political statement. I'm just talking facts here. Donald Trump got prosecuted for real estate fraud, essentially. Overinflating the value of properties that he had. And the counter argument to that was, well, it's a victimless crime. It literally happens all the time with real estate investing. Who cares? It's a victimless crime if you are a real estate mogul who, for fun, dabbles in real estate. If you're so fucking wealthy that it doesn't matter how expensive the cost of living gets, you're going to be fine. Yeah, it's a victimless crime. But that trickles down when you overinflate the value of a property. It then means it inflates artificially, inflates the value of all the properties around it. And that means that a city like New York gets even more expensive to live because of artificial inflation to the market. That's why people can't afford to buy homes anymore. That piece of shit house down the street that is worth $400,000-$500,000 in today's market in New Jersey is not actually a $400,000 or $500,000 house. It's because the market, the demand is so high, it has artificially inflated the value of this home. Take Puerto Rico, for example. Over there, the market is ridiculously inflated artificially. These homes are selling well beyond what they're actually worth because the demand is there. Because you have cash investors buying property, willing to overpay because they're so fucking rich. And to them, this is a good value because in the States, that $600,000 home in Puerto Rico, in the States, that's a $1.2 million home. Right? So for them, it's, hey, I'm getting it at a fucking steal. I'm going to turn it into an Airbnb that is going to yield profit when I'm done. Going to pay for that and then some. And actually, in Puerto Rico, the banks will only let you borrow what they establish the value to be, right? So the banks in Puerto Rico actually aren't even playing this game. So your house could be being sold for $600,000 in Puerto Rico, but when they send over the appraiser from the bank, he doesn't give a fuck about comps as much. He doesn't care that, well, that the house next door sold for $600,000, so therefore this one should be worth $600,000. No, he evaluates it, and he's going to give it its real value. And that's all that the bank is willing to lend. You have to come up with the rest of this artificially inflated value. Hence why so many people have a problem buying homes over there now as far as locals go, because they don't make enough to keep up with that. And again, that is why you see so many angry local people now over there. Angry at gringos, for lack of a better word, because they symbolize the reason why they are struggling. Because the gringos who are making a lot of money out here, or there's a lot of foreign investment as well, are artificially creating inflated prices that only they can pay for, that can't be paid for on a salary of a local Puerto Rican. And Puerto Ricans are getting pushed out of their homeland and struggling. Now, that's the same shit that's happening over here. Now, maybe it doesn't feel as dire, although in a lot of cases it is, but because we do have higher salaries over here, higher minimum wage, all these different things. But nobody working 40 hours a week, full-time job, busting their ass, should be living check to check. Like, if you're not spending your money on bullshit and you literally are being good with your money and living within your means, there's no reason why you should just be living check to check. And the reason why salaries haven't kept up with the cost of living is because of corporate greed. They refuse to pay fair salaries because they're trying to maximize their profits for their shareholders. Because when your CEO is making $10, $20 million, and then on top of that, you have to report record profits each quarter for your shareholders, drive up the stock price, everybody at top gets their bonus, you got to make up that money somewhere. And the first people to feel that are going to be the low-level employees who are the ones responsible for the fucking day-to-day operation of that company. And the other people to feel it are going to be us, the consumers. Meanwhile, rents are going through the roof. Home prices are going through the roof. And people are not getting raises or bonuses like they used to. People are getting laid off left and right. So I guess my point being to this whole conversation when the greed becomes so extreme, when the disparity between the haves and the have-nots becomes so disgraceful, people are going to fucking rebel. When enough people are struggling, which I believe we're getting to that point now. And again, even back to Donald Trump, was a lot of people voting for Donald Trump was a form of rebellion. As misguided as I think it was, that's what a lot of people did. They rebelled in the form of voting for Donald Trump. I heard from so many people, he's a fucking idiot, he's a piece of shit. I'm voting for anything that's different than what I'm currently going through. And unfortunately, of the two, he represented something different because he wasn't a part of the administration that is currently in office. But as much as I don't want to see violence and blood spilled out on the streets, I fear that this is only the beginning if we don't get a grip on the extreme greed that we're seeing in this country. The corporate greed that has been just allowed to run absolutely fucking wild. I can't see how we're not going to, unfortunately, experience more moments like this one. And I wish I had a positive solution, some sort of answer. Buckle up is really all. That's what I'm telling myself. Because I don't see how you put Pandora back in the box. I don't mean to be negative. I don't want to depress everybody. But I don't see how these rich people will all of a sudden, have a fucking Scrooge experience and all of a sudden be like, you know what? I'm going to give up my inflated salary. We're going to stop overvaluing shareholders. We're going to stop having to report numbers every quarter. It's unrealistic. They're enjoying too much of this excess to reel it back in. It's been normalized to them. And to be completely honest, they all live in this bubble where they don't understand the everyday person and don't grasp just how bad it actually is. Like, I really do think there are a lot of them who are blissfully ignorant. And it's easy to do it. Like, listen, I've been, like, for example, something I recognize about myself being blissfully ignorant. I have been blessed where working in radio and music and having certain relationships, any concert for the most part that I wanted to go to, I've gotten a free pass. I haven't paid for a concert in a long time. It's rare that I ever pay to get into a club because of certain connections. But like concert, I talk to people like, oh yeah, I went to go see Beyonce. I paid $600 for tickets. That is unimaginable to me. And never in a million years would I guess that people are paying that much money for concert tickets. That's my own blissful ignorance. I never even have to think about that. Now, magnify that to the 10th degree, where these billionaires have no idea that gas prices and milk are out of control, or rents, or they have no idea what people are getting paid. They live in their own bubble, or just how expensive it is to fucking do anything, because somebody else always does it for them. Somebody uses their card and buys their groceries for them, and they never even see the bill. It's just paid. It literally, I think everybody needs to have a every boss needs to have, what was that show, Undercover Boss? They need to have that experience. And even then, some of them probably wouldn't give a shit. But truthfully, they are so separated and out of touch with reality, I don't see how we ever get back to a place where things are being done fairly. I want that to happen. I'm hopeful. I hope it fucking happens. I mean, listen, French Revolution, happened in the 1700s. But I just don't see how we get there. Too many people are too comfortable with excess wealth, and I don't see how we tell them, no, you cannot have a fourth yacht. You have to pay your employees fairly. I pray that I'm wrong. I pray that I'm proven wrong, that the human condition proves me wrong. I genuinely do. But we shall see. All right. Now move on to some positivity. Our culture holding it down as per usual. So we'll talk about that. We'll take a quick break here, and then we'll be right back. All right, so Spotify released its Wrapped. You've probably seen it on a bunch of people's stories and things of that nature. I always enjoy seeing. I always hear a lot of people complaining, like, "You think anybody cares? What music you listen to?" Yeah, I do. I think it's interesting. So whatever. Nobody stop being a hater. Anyway, Latino artists are still crushing it. Now, the number one stream Latino artist in the world, no surprise here, Bad Bunny. But what I loved to see here was looking at the top 10 artists globally. And I'm going to read all of them, because to me, that speaks to what our impact is here. Number 1, Taylor Swift, no surprise there. Number 2, The Weeknd. Number 3, top artist globally, Bad Bunny. And by the way, this is Bad Bunny. His last album wasn't as it was great, and it still did its thing, but it wasn't as commercially as successful as the last one, Un Verano Sin Ti. But even with that, the third artist globally, according to Spotify. Number 4, Drake. Number 5, Billie Eilish. Number 6, Travis Scott. Number 7, Mexico got one on the board here, Peso Pluma. Amazing, right? Number 8, Kanye West. Number 9, Ariana Grande. And number 10, Fade. Colombia, I believe, representing. Think about how crazy that is, by the way. You have Peso Pluma in front of Ariana Grande. That's amazing. Like, that's literally absolutely amazing. If I stop to just sit here and think about that. And as far as Latin artists goes, the top ones you had were Bad Bunny, followed by Peso Pluma, Fade, and then Karol G. And then after that was Junior H, Raul Alejandro, shout out Puerto Rico, Nathaniel Caño, Fuerza Regida, Mike Towers, and Anuel. Just amazing. I'm still fucking caught up on that global. Actually, I just put up another one. Top 10 albums globally. I'm not going to read all of them. But Karol G, Mañana Será Bonita, the 4th album globally of 2024 on Spotify. That's fucking crazy. Again, above Ariana Grande. And the only 3 artists in front of her are Sabrina Carpenter, who had the gigantic year, Billie Eilish, and Taylor Swift. That's absolutely crazy. Let's see. Top 10 songs globally. At number 4, Gata Only from Floyd Menor and Chris Mij. Why do I not know that? Interesting. From TikTok song. Okay, respect. They did top podcast. We out here, man. Top podcast. Relatos de la Noche, number 7. Let me see. Café con Despay, number 9. And El Podcast de Marian Rojas Estape, number 10. I think I just butchered some names out here. Listen, more of the fucking story here is, according to Spotify, their 2024 Wrapped, we out here. Very proud. We continue to, at this point, Latin culture is a mainstay in pop culture, arguably just as big as anything else. And it's a very, very proud moment. And it's just crazy to see how far it's all come in just the last few years. And this is a significant, representation of that is beautiful to see. So shout out to all the Latino artists out there and all of us as fans who are out here doing our thing. With that said, let's tie everything we talked about today in a neat little bow in a segment we call Conclusion Stew.
Time for Conclusion Stew.
All right, I took some years off my life with that conversation about greed, corporate greed, I should say, and the death of the CEO of United Health. Again, I'm would never call for violence or anything like that, but it's when we have these conversations, you got to look at cause and effect at the end of the day. While I don't think this was the right action, I also understand where it's coming from. People are fucking fed up, and we have every right to be fed up. Nobody's looking out for us. It's crazy. It really is. It's wild. It's no longer, and this is the ironic part. The people who are like, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, they're kind of sitting around now like, hold on a second. Maybe there's more to this than just working hard, right? That's why now I think the conversation is even bigger, because the motherfuckers that were like, you guys are just lazy. You need to work a little harder. Now they're starting to feel it. It's trickling up to them, or trickling down to them. And now they're like, hold on a second. Maybe people are being greedy. Maybe we are being gouged. And maybe something needs to be done. That's the irony. But yeah, a lot of people are feeling it. Even ones who are supposed to be in better financial positions, the effects are starting to hit them. And I think that's why you're starting to see the outrage you are now. It is getting to the point where the people who are on paper supposed to be living a decent lifestyle are now struggling a bit. I've said this 1,000,001 times before, but living in the New York, New Jersey area, making $100,000 a year isn't much. If you're a single income household making $100,000 a year, you're basically just getting by for the most part. Could be worse, obviously, but you're not living this extravagant lifestyle. You're just doing it enough that, hey, if I get a flat tire, I can take care of it, which is a blessing in itself. But the thought process is, if you're making 6 figures, you should be doing a lot better in terms of your quality of life. And that's where we've come to, and that's where people are getting fed up. Because when you work your ass off to get to that point, and you're still not really able to live the type of quality of life you want, you start fucking asking questions. You start looking at them receipts, some grocery receipts, and being like, how the fuck is milk $6, for some fucking almond milk? And people get angry. And if we're talking about healthcare, who knows what the story is going to be when they eventually catch this guy or find out what the backstory is. But if it's like, this guy's, mother or got denied a claim, or if this guy himself is like terminally ill and got denied a claim and just decided, hey, I got nothing to lose now, it's going to be a real moment where we're like, hey, people are not taking this shit lying down anymore. It's going to be interesting in the scariest possible way. And yeah, buckle up. That's all I'm doing here. And on a positive note, Latin people, music culturally, we out here killing it. We're dominating as per usual. So shout out to us in regards to that. With that said, I'll catch you on Tuesday with a brand new episode. Have an amazing weekend. Try to, I don't know, give yourself a good time in some sort of way. Relax a little bit, decompress. The world is fucking heavy. And I'll catch you on Tuesday with a brand new one. Till then, stay safe. We'll talk soon. Peace.